She didn't just break your heart. She hollowed you out and left a shell. You're replaying it endlessly, a broken film loop in the theater of your mind, searching for the moment the script was flipped. But you'll never find it, because you were reading from a different script entirely. You thought it was a love story. For her, it was a strategic campaign, and your surrender was its final, glorious objective. She didn't just leave you. She dismantled you. She took every secret you confided in the dead of night and repurposed it as a weapon against you. Every vulnerability you believed was a bridge between your souls, she saw as a crack in your defenses, a weakness to be cataloged and later exploited. She conducted a psychological autopsy on you while you were still breathing, meticulously proving to herself and to the world that you were the sickness she had to cut away. Remember the chilling stillness of that final conversation? The air in the room was thick and cold, heavy with unspoken verdicts. You were pleading your case, laying out evidence of your loyalty, your future plans, your love, but you were arguing before a court that had already passed its sentence. Her eyes. Look back and remember her eyes. They weren't filled with sadness or conflict. They were clear, unburdened. The eyes of someone who had already mourned the relationship weeks ago and was now simply attending to the final, tedious piece of paperwork. You were searching for a flicker of the woman you loved. She was looking straight through you at the freedom on the other side. Her words were not her own. They were a curated selection of phrases designed for clean, efficient emotional amputation. It's not you, it's me. I need to find myself. You deserve to be happy. These are not explanations. They are tactical smoke grenades, deployed to cover a retreat, to obscure the brutal truth. Your purpose in her story had been served. You were no longer an asset. You were a liability, and she was liquidating you. The German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer saw this brutal machinery with perfect, unforgiving clarity. He warned that the force we call romantic love is nothing more than the will to life, the blind, insatiable, unconscious drive of the species to perpetuate itself. This force, the true master of the world, doesn't care about your happiness, your fulfillment, or your heart. You are a tool, a vehicle. Your feelings of profound connection and destiny are merely the bait in a biological trap, designed to make you sacrifice your individual reason and ambition at the altar of procreation. Schopenhauer wrote that when a man is in love, he is no longer his own master. You were not her partner. You were a slave to a genetic imperative, and she was simply a more ruthless agent of its will. She didn't betray you. She was acting in perfect alignment with a cold, cosmic program that prioritizes survival over sentiment. When her instincts calculated that you were no longer the optimal variable for her future equation, she cut you loose with the impersonal efficiency of a natural law. Right now, you feel like a ghost, powerless, invisible, a fool who mistook a business transaction for a sacred vow. This feeling of total humiliation, of being so completely outplayed, is the tuition you pay for entering the battlefield unarmed. But this is the critical juncture. This moment of absolute defeat is not an end. It is an initiation. The fire of your humiliation can either consume you, leaving nothing but ash, or it can be harnessed to forge a new kind of man from the ruins of the old one. A man who is colder, harder, and immune to the illusions that brought you to your knees. The goal is not to mend your broken heart. The goal is to re-engineer yourself so that your heart is no longer a viable target. What if you could learn to see the hidden mechanics behind the curtain of romance? What if you could not only see the strings of the puppet master, but seize them for yourself? We are not going to teach you how to win her back. We are going to teach you how to make her, and the entire system she represents, utterly irrelevant to your ascent. Before we arm you with the psychological arsenal to turn this devastating loss into a foundation of unshakable power, you must make a choice, a declaration. Subscribe to Psychological Dominion now. Activate all notifications, because every lesson is a weapon, and you cannot afford to be disarmed. Press the like button as a signal that the old you is dead, and a strategist has been born. And in the comments below, I want you to perform a tactical analysis. Do not share your pain. That is a useless currency here. Instead, identify and describe the single greatest tactical error you made. The precise moment you willingly handed over the keys to your own mind. Was it a premature confession of feelings? A display of weakness you mistook for trust? Pinpoint the strategic blunder. We are here to dissect the art of war, not to mourn its casualties. Let's begin the autopsy. Your authority was not taken from you in a single violent coup. It was surrendered piece by piece, in 1,000 silent concessions you mistook for acts of love. The end was not a sudden catastrophe. It was the inevitable conclusion of a long, slow, strategic erosion that you facilitated at every step. You were not a victim of a surprise attack. You were the willing architect of your own downfall. The process begins with the first phase: emotional concession. It started subtly. She was having a bad day, and you canceled your plans. Plans that were important to your own mission, your own growth, to comfort her. You saw it as a noble sacrifice. She saw it as a data point. The data point was this: her emotional state has the power to override your logistical and personal priorities. You taught her that her feelings were a strategic asset, a lever she could pull to redirect your entire life's trajectory. Schopenhauer saw this with chilling clarity. He understood that the will to life, the biological imperative, uses emotional entanglement to enslave the rational man. When you made her emotional comfort the central organizing principle of your life, you ceased to be the protagonist of your own story. You became a supporting character in hers. She tested, you yielded, she won. Think back. Remember the arguments that ended with you apologizing? Even when you knew you weren't wrong? You weren't apologizing for a specific action. You were apologizing for the crime of upsetting her. You were begging for the restoration of emotional peace at any cost. The cost was your integrity. Each false apology was a transfer of power. You were paying tribute to a queen, hoping she would grant you peace in your own kingdom. But you were giving away the very land you stood on. This wasn't compromise. It was capitulation. You weren't building a partnership. You were negotiating the terms of your own occupation. This leads directly to the second phase, the quest for validation. Having outsourced your emotional stability to her, you soon outsourced your self-worth. Her approval became the metric by which you measured your own value. You stopped asking yourself, "What do I want to do?" and started asking, "What does she want me to do?" Your decisions were no longer driven by ambition or principle, but by a desperate need for her smile, her praise, her validation. You dressed for her. You spoke for her. You curated your personality to be something she would endorse. This is the state of the modern man, a trained performer dancing for an audience of one. You posted a picture of the two of you online, not to celebrate a memory, but to check the likes, to read her comment, to feel the temporary relief of her public stamp of approval. You bought her gifts she didn't ask for, hoping to buy a moment of affection. These were not gifts, they were applications for approval. And with every application, you reinforced her position as the sole arbiter of your worth. She didn't have to control you directly. She didn't need to issue commands. She just had to manage the supply of her validation, and you would contort yourself into any shape necessary to receive it. You became a dog chasing a treat, and you were too busy wagging your tail to realize you were on a leash. From here, you descend into the third phase, affective dependency. This is where the leash becomes a chain. Your need for her validation becomes a full-blown addiction. Her presence is a drug that stabilizes you. Her absence sends you into withdrawal. This is the hell of checking your phone every 30 seconds, your stomach twisting into a knot because she hasn't replied. The two blue checkmarks without a response become a psychological torture device. Her silence is dominance, not inattention. It is a calculated void that she knows you will scramble to fill. You fill it with double texts, with panicked calls, with desperate pleas for a sign that you still exist in her world. Your entire emotional equilibrium now depends on an external variable you cannot control. You have given her the power to regulate your nervous system. A single word from her can make your day. A moment of perceived coldness can shatter it. This is not love. This is a hostage situation, and you are the one who built the prison, locked the door, and handed her the only key. Schopenhauer warned that love makes a man no longer his own master. In this phase, you are not even a servant. You are a tool, an object whose function is entirely dependent on its operator. You have no purpose outside of her. And the terrifying part is, you begin to believe this is normal. You call it passion. You call it being all in. The system calls it a successful capture. The final, pathetic phase is the breaking of silence. This is your unconditional surrender. It's the moment you utter the 5 most destructive words in the male lexicon. We need to talk about us. This is not a conversation. It is an interrogation where you are both the defendant and the prosecutor, and she is the silent, judging magistrate. You lay out all your weaknesses like a beggar displaying his sores. You tell her you're afraid of losing her. You ask her what you did wrong. You plead with her to give you a roadmap to her heart, a set of instructions you can follow to make her happy again. When you did this, you committed the ultimate strategic blunder. You revealed your entire hand while she kept her cards pressed firmly to her chest. You gave her a complete psychological schematic of your fears, your insecurities, and your dependencies. You handed her the operating manual for your own mind, and she studied it meticulously. From that moment on, every action she took was informed by the weaknesses you so foolishly confessed. She knew exactly which buttons to push to create anxiety, which words to use to inspire guilt, which silences to employ to generate panic. When you apologized for your own fear, you signed your surrender. You weren't asking for a solution, you were begging for a master. And now you sit in the ruins, wondering how it all fell apart. You think it was that one big fight, that one final conversation. You are wrong. The collapse was silent. It happened in the hesitation before you spoke your mind. It happened in the yes you gave when your entire being screamed no. It happened every time you chose her comfort over your own truth. The foundation was rotting for months, years, while you were busy admiring the paint on the walls. Perhaps you're thinking, this is too cynical. Relationships require vulnerability and compromise. You are confusing vulnerability with strategic incompetence. You are confusing compromise with self-annihilation. True vulnerability can only exist from a position of absolute, unshakable strength. It is the conscious, controlled choice to lower your shield, not the pathetic act of handing your sword to the enemy. And compromise is a negotiation between two sovereign powers, not the appeasement of a stronger state by a weaker one. You were not compromising. You were paying tribute to avoid conflict. You were not being vulnerable. You were being weak. She tested you, and you failed. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to rebuild your collapsed frame for you. That is your work, and your work alone. The first step is a ruthless diagnosis of every tactical error you made. So let's make this practical. I want you to perform a battlefield assessment in the comments below. Identify the single most significant concession you made, the moment you first traded a piece of your sovereignty for her approval. Was it a canceled career opportunity? A friendship you let wither? A core belief you silenced? Pinpoint that first act of surrender. By dissecting these failures in the open, we transform them from sources of shame into strategic lessons. As you write your analysis, ensure you have subscribed to Psychological Dominion and activated all notifications. Every video is a briefing for the war you are now fighting, and press the like button as a salute to the man you once were, and a commitment to the strategist you are now becoming. The fall is not a spectacle. It's a quiet process of giving away small pieces of ground until you look up and realize you are standing on a cliff edge, with nowhere left to retreat. You didn't notice because you were focused on her, on the relationship, on the illusion Schopenhauer warned you about. You were looking at the beautiful flower, oblivious to the fact that its roots were strangling the life out of you, deep beneath the surface. Your enemy was not her. Your enemy was your own ignorance of the game being played. But that ignorance ends now. There is no going back for the weak man. There is only the construction of the new one. The man you were is a casualty of a war you didn't know you were fighting. To mourn him is a waste of strategic resources. To attempt to resurrect him is to guarantee a second, more humiliating death. Your reconstruction does not begin with healing. Healing is a feminine concept, a slow, gentle mending. This is not mending. This is a demolition and a rebuild. It is a cold, brutal, tactical operation with a single objective: to forge a version of you that is structurally immune to the kind of devastation you just experienced. This process is not emotional. It is mechanical. You will approach the restoration of your own dominion with the dispassionate precision of a combat engineer clearing a minefield. The commands are simple. The execution is everything. First, you will cut the excess. Everything in your life that exists solely to serve her memory or the ghost of the relationship must be amputated. This is not a sentimental cleansing. It is a tactical purge. The photographs on your phone are not memories. They are psychological anchors holding you in a compromised position. Delete them. The playlist you made together is not a soundtrack to your love. It is an enemy propaganda broadcast designed to trigger emotional weakness. Erase it. The gifts she gave you are not tokens of affection. They are enemy flags planted in your territory. Remove them from your sight. Every object, every digital artifact, every routine that connects you to her is a strategic liability. You are stripping your life down to the studs, removing every wire she installed, every listening device she left behind. You must create a sterile environment, an operational clean room where the new man can be constructed without contamination from the old programming. Second, you will install the silence. Your greatest strategic error was believing that communication solved problems. It does not. Communication from a position of weakness is merely a more detailed surrender. Your immediate command is to impose absolute and total silence. This is not the petulant silence of a hurt child. This is the profound, heavy silence of a sovereign power that has closed its borders. She may reach out. She may send a text to test the connection, to see if her remote control still functions. Her message is a probe, a reconnaissance mission sent into your territory. Your silence is the anti-aircraft battery that shoots it out of the sky. By not responding, you are not ignoring her. You are communicating a new reality in the only language power understands: absence. You are telling her, your access to this territory has been permanently revoked. Your clearance level is now 0. Her mind, accustomed to your immediate reply, will not find peace in your silence. It will find a vacuum, and into that vacuum, it will pour anxiety, curiosity, and for the first time, a sliver of respect born from fear. Be an absence that has weight, not a presence that begs. Third, you will control the reaction. The old you was a slave to emotional stimulus. A text message could make or break your day. A memory could send you spiraling. That man is dead. The new man is the master of his internal state. You will train your mind to view emotional triggers as simple data inputs, not as commands. When a wave of sadness or anger hits, you will not indulge it. You will not suppress it. You will observe it, analyze it, and dismiss it. You will say to yourself, "Ah, the old programming attempting to run." Acknowledged. Deleting process. This is the practice of detachment. It is the core skill of the strategist. Schopenhauer observed that the will, the blind striving of life, keeps man in a constant state of suffering through desire and attachment. By detaching from your emotional reactions, you are staging a rebellion against your own biological hardware. You are asserting the dominance of your intellect over the tyranny of your instincts. You are no longer a puppet of the will. You are its cold, calculating observer. With this internal fortress established, you turn your focus outward. Your reconstruction is not about feeling better. It is about becoming objectively, demonstrably more powerful. Your comeback is a plan, not a hope, and it is built upon 4 pillars of hierarchical dominance. The first is the physical. You will go to the gym not to get a revenge body. A revenge body is a pathetic admission that she is still the audience for your actions. You will train with the brutal discipline of a soldier preparing for deployment. The pain of lifting heavy iron will recalibrate your nervous system. The physical transformation is merely a byproduct. The true purpose is the forging of an unbreakable will, the daily practice of choosing discomfort over ease. Your body becomes a visual representation of your new philosophy: hard, disciplined, and formidable. The second pillar is the financial. You will redirect every ounce of energy you once spent obsessing over her into the relentless acquisition of resources. Money is not for buying her back. It is for buying your freedom. It is the ultimate tool of power and autonomy. Every dollar earned is another brick in your fortress. Every wise investment is another cannon on its walls. You will become a student of wealth, not as a means of consumption, but as a means of strategic advantage. Your financial ascent will be silent and relentless. You will not flaunt it. You will simply accumulate it, knowing that economic power is the bedrock of true independence. The third pillar is the social. You were socially isolated, your world shrinking to an audience of one. You will now aggressively expand your sphere of influence. You will reconnect with powerful men. You will build new alliances. You will position yourself in circles where status and respect are the currency. Your objective is not to make her jealous by posting pictures with other women. That is the tactic of a boy. Your objective is to build a network so powerful and engaging that your life before her becomes a distant, irrelevant memory. You will become a man of consequence, whose time and attention are valuable commodities, not a free resource to be given away to the first bidder. The final and most important pillar is the symbolic. Your mission. A man without a mission is a ship without a rudder, a slave to the currents of another's will. You will define with terrifying clarity your life's purpose. It could be building a business, mastering a skill, creating a work of art. The specific mission is less important than its absolute centrality to your existence. This mission becomes your new god, your new lover, your new master. It is the reason you wake up. It is the thing to which you sacrifice your comfort and your time. Schopenhauer wrote, A man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills. The desire you felt for her was not your own. It was the will of the species using you as its pawn. By consciously choosing your own mission and dedicating your will to it, you achieve the only true freedom a man can know. You hijack the program for your own ends. A man who wants to be loved will be discarded. A man who imposes his presence will be feared. Do not win her back. Replace her with a sharper silence. This is the blueprint for your reconstruction. It is a declaration of war against your own weakness and against the biological programming that made you a fool. This is not a path for the faint of heart. It requires a level of discipline and cold-blooded resolve that few men possess. But the alternative is to remain a ghost, a hollowed-out shell, forever a pawn in someone else's game. The choice is yours. If you are ready to begin this transformation, to burn the old self to the ground and build a warlord from the ashes, then your training continues now. Subscribe to Psychological Dominion and activate all notifications, for each lesson is a weapon you cannot afford to miss. Press the like button as a vow to never again surrender your power. And now, for your first tactical assessment. Based on the 4 pillars of reconstruction: physical, financial, social, and mission. Which one have you neglected the most in the pursuit of a woman? Be brutally honest in the comments. Acknowledging the breach in your own fortress is the first step to rebuilding it. And so you wait for the final chapter, the moment of confrontation, the scene your mind has replayed 1,000 times, each time with a different, more satisfying outcome. You imagine a chance encounter where she sees you, transformed, powerful, surrounded by success and the admiration of others. You imagine the regret that will flood her eyes, the dawning horror that she discarded a king, not a pawn. You crave this scene. You believe it will be the validation that finally closes the wound. But this fantasy is the last ghost of the weak man you had to kill. The final victory is not what you think it is. It is colder, emptier, and far more absolute. It happens, as it always does. Not in a storm, but in the sterile quiet of a social gathering. The air is filled with the low hum of conversations about capital, strategy, and power. The new ecosystem you inhabit. And then, you see her. She is a ghost from a former life, an artifact from a museum you burned to the ground. She approaches, a slight nervous smile on her lips. She has prepared a script. She expects one of 2 reactions: a flash of anger that proves she still has a hold on you, or a lingering sadness that proves you are still wounded. Both outcomes would be a victory for her. Both would confirm that she still occupies a significant space in your psyche. But the man standing there is a different entity entirely. He is not the man she dismantled. He is the strategist who rose from the rubble. As she begins to speak, uttering some meaningless pleasantry, your mind does not flood with memories. It does not churn with rage or pain. It simply processes her presence as a new data point in the environment and finds it irrelevant. Your focus is not on her. Your gaze passes over her, acknowledges her with the polite, distant civility you would afford a stranger who has asked for directions, and then it settles on a man across the room with whom you are building an enterprise. You give her a slight nod, a verbal response that is technically polite but functionally a dismissal, and you turn your attention back to what matters, back to your mission. This is the moment of her true defeat, not in a dramatic scene of confrontation, but in a quiet moment of absolute insignificance. She came expecting to see a ruin, a monument to her destructive power. Instead, she finds a fortress she doesn't have the clearance to enter. She sees a man who is not performing for her, not reacting to her, not even thinking of her. A man whose world has become so large, so focused, so driven by purpose, that she has been rendered a footnote, a forgotten line of code from a previous operating system. The silence you have cultivated is not a weapon you are wielding against her. It is simply the natural state of your new world. It is the sound of your own empire being built, and in that sound, her voice is completely and utterly drowned out. Schopenhauer would have called this the Great Liberation, the moment a man finally breaks the chains of the will to life. That blind, relentless force used her to enslave you, to make you sacrifice your reason at the altar of its biological imperative. For a time, you were its perfect slave, but now, you see the mechanism. You see her not as the one who got away, but as a simple agent of a biological program you have chosen to uninstall. She is no longer a person who hurt you. She is a symbol of a weakness you have transcended. The emotional charge is gone. The pain is gone. The desire is gone. All that remains is the cold, clear understanding of the game itself. You didn't just flip the board. You walked away from the table. You left her there, holding her pieces, suddenly realizing she is playing against no one. Your victory was not in making her feel regret. Your victory was in engineering a self that is incapable of even registering her existence as significant. Respect is not won in arguments. It is not begged for in late-night conversations. It is imposed. It is the silent, unavoidable consequence of your own power, your own absence, your own utter and complete focus on your mission. She will walk away from that encounter not with a sense of victory or even of loss, but with a profound and unsettling sense of confusion. She will question her own memory, her own impact, her own power. You have not erased her from your life. You have, by the sheer force of your own evolution, made her irrelevant to it. That is a vengeance far deeper and more permanent than any emotional outburst could ever provide. Your legacy is not the love you lost. It is the empire you built when you stopped looking for it. She didn't break you. She was simply the catalyst that forced you to become unbreakable. Before you close this transmission, your final orders are to be executed. This is not just a channel, it is an arsenal. Subscribe to Psychological Dominion and activate all notifications, because every piece of intelligence is critical for the war ahead. Your subscription is not a number. It is a declaration of allegiance to your own sovereignty. Press the like button as a final seal on the tomb of the man you used to be. And now, I want you to answer one final question in the comments below, and be brutally honest. After everything you have learned, what is the single greatest illusion about love that you are now prepared to execute from your own mind?